Welcome to Podnastics. My name is Jacob Daniel, and along with my friend and co-host Christian Marsh, we interview gymnasts and let them tell their stories. From college-level gymnasts to Olympic stars, we're going to cover it all. This is Podnastics. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Podnastics. My name is Jacob Daniel.
And I'm Christian Marsh.
And let's get into it. Chris, did I just call you Chris? That felt really wrong. For reference, I've never called Mars Chris in my life. We were briefly talking about the intro, and I was like, yeah, I'll say my name, and then you can say Christian Marsh. I'm sorry. Yeah, I've never called Marsh Chris before. Yeah, Chris, how was your weekend? What'd you get up to?
That's funny. You know, most of my family actually calls me Chris, which makes most people who know me cringe internally. Apparently, I don't give the vibe, but my brothers and my parents and my grandparents call me Chris. Regardless, I commentated this weekend. William and Mary competed against Army at Army, and it was a great meet. Army came out on top. They absolutely outcompeted William and Mary this weekend, so they did a great job. I would think they went like 23 for 24. And the one miss they really had, it was just a repeated dismount on pommel horse. So it's not like he even fell all the way off. They did a great job. It was a great meet. I was really excited to talk. I've worked with Vertius before. I've done some commentating work before for them, including, other dual meets William and Mary has participated in, and ECAC conference last season, as well as NCAA championships, where I got to talk about parallel bars on the stream. So it was great to work with them again. It's free. I love their site. So I had a great time.
That's incredible. I also got into some pretty heavy stuff this weekend. I watched Invincible on Thursday, and then before that, I got to watch the new Spider-Man show on Wednesday. And I think one of us accomplished a little bit more than the other one. And I'm not trying to brag on myself, Marsh, but I feel like I feel like my weeks are just, stacking up. No, dude, that's awesome about getting to commentate. For anyone who wants to hire Marsh for more commentating gigs, this is Jacob Daniel's official endorsement. Have you been watching that Spider-Man show by chance?
I actually have. I've seen everything so far. It's it's a lot of fun. I like the animation style, which might be a bit of a hot take, but I like the way it looks very much like a comic book. I find it enjoyable.
Oh, I love it, man. I love how it's MCU adjacent. So it's like a what
Hmm.
if instead of Peter Parker getting trained by Iron Man, he was trained by like Norman Osborn, who's also played by Coleman. Oh my gosh, what's his last name? Coleman Domingo.
Domingo.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, he is fantastic. We're allowed to talk about this because Spider-Man is the closest thing to a real life gymnast in the terms of superheroes.
absolutely. He'd be the sickest all-arounder on the planet. So
Dude, the spider sense would just alert him if he was about to get a deduction. Oh,
100%.
but we can't give him a 10 this season. Those are the rules. Okay, anyway, today's guest, we have a Stanford gymnast, a Pan Am champ, and he was actually recently on an episode of Dancing with the Stars with Steven Nazarodic. Today's guest is Riley Loos. He is also a close friend of mine from my years at Flip Fest or gymnastics camp. So let's get into it. Let's bring Riley Loos on the show so you get to know Riley Loos on Podnastics, the gymnastics podcast. Let's welcome Riley Loos to Podnastics. Riley, man, good to have you on the show. It's like you were just saying to me, it has been so long since I last saw you. I think the last time I saw you was 2017.
Was it that long ago? Wow.
It
Was that
feels
8 years ago?
it feels like just
Crazy.
yesterday for me. So Riley, once again, thanks for coming on the show. I'm sure, we've never met. My name is Jacob Daniel. I'm a proud American gymnast. This is my co-host, Marsh Christian, proud American gymnast. And we're here to learn a little bit about you, Riley Loos, proud American gymnast.
Let's go.
All right. So Riley, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, yeah. To start, I am a proud American gymnast. I am a four-time national champion at Stanford, so I'm still training at Stanford to this day. I've been on the national team for, I think, 7 different times, 7 different years in total. Currently, I am not on the national team, but am training for Winter Cup right now. Just came back from a 1-on-6 and hoping to make national team again. So I've been doing gymnastics for about 15 years now. So it's been my life for the longest time. And I'm just super happy to be here today.
Nice, man. So real quick, I gotta ask you a question. What was it like getting to go on Dancing with the Stars with Steven Nezarodic?
That was a crazy surprise. I got a text from him about, I think it was 6 days before we left for LA. And he was like, "Hey, can you dance? Like, are you willing to come to LA and be on my final dance?" And I was like, "Of course. Like, I love dancing. I have ever since Flip Fest back in 2016, 2017." So I was like, Let's do it." And it was such a crazy experience. Being a part of Hollywood, even for a few days, was absolutely insane. So major props to Steven for all he's done with Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah, I definitely jumped ahead of my notes right there, but it was really funny because I didn't know at first that you were going to be on there. And I was hanging out with a bunch of people actually at a bar and they had turned on the show. It was really funny because I made you out in the corner and I started tapping my friends. I'm like, holy shit, that was my camper back in the day. And they're like, no way, you coached Steven Nezarodic? I'm like, no, no, the blonde is over there. That's my camper.
That's so funny. Yeah, I didn't know I was going to be on it either. It was actually last minute, but again, so grateful I got to do it.
Well, going back a little bit more to the beginning, so you said you've been doing gymnastics for about 15 years. How old were you when you started?
I was 9 years old, and I had just watched the 2008 Olympics the past summer back in 2008,
Hmm.
and then I had to finish my last year of baseball, soccer, and basketball, and I was like, I want to do that, Mom. I want to be on the rings like Team China because what they were doing was so cool. And then the next year I started it, never looked back.
That's crazy that you came. Because I feel like every time I talk to a gymnast, it always starts with similar to the same story where it's like, I started gymnastics at a really young age, but starting at 9, I feel like is a little later at times. So that's crazy that you started at 9 and then you ended up at Stanford, man. How was your time at Stanford?
It was up and down for sure, but what really made it an amazing experience was the team there. So I'll start at my freshman year. I came in thinking I had training figured out. I knew what to do. All I had to do was just get big skills, throw them into routines, and then boom, I was amazing. But I learned there was a lot more to it. I didn't understand what a strength training plan looked like or how to make my teammates trust me by hitting every single routine in the gym. So I had to learn a lot of accountability and just team culture while I was at Stanford my freshman year. And it was so tough. So that year, I would say, was one of the toughest years of my life for sure. But from then on, I really just stuck to it, stuck to the team culture. Sophomore year, was obviously COVID happened, so we're back in the COVID times. And most of my time that year was online. So I didn't even get to see my team. We were all at home because Stanford booted us out for a whole year.
Oh, no
So
way.
our team didn't train together for that whole year. But I've really internally had that team culture in mind. And when we all came back in March of my sophomore year, we had about a month before NCAA's, and the team culture was still there. We came together and we won my first NCAA team championship. And then from then on out, again, just stuck to the numbers, grinded day in, day out, had injuries here and there, but really just trusted the process, utilized my athletic trainers, trusted my coaches, and really leaned on my teammates. And some, I guess, highlights from my time at Stanford were winning that first national championship my sophomore year since freshman year got canceled. Um, Junior year, I won my first individual NCAA title on rings, which was one of the best moments of my life, sticking that dismount. And then senior year, finishing it off with another team win was just such an amazing experience
Icing on the
and
cake right there.
icing on the cake. And just honestly so grateful for my coaches at Stanford, my teammates. But yeah, it was super hard. I will not deny that.
Yeah, I think Marsh will probably back up my statement, but I think that's that feeling of going from like an individual to a team, especially in gymnastic, hits when you get to college. Marsh, what do you have to say about that?
It's truly unreal. I mean, excuse me, I came from a gym where I was one of the older athletes competing, so that there was often when we were competing, I didn't even have a team at the junior level to put up a level 10 team score or whatever. So getting to college and then not only do I have this whole group of people who are depending on me, I'm depending on them. Uh, but also like I'm no longer like, oh, like I'm not the best guy on my team anymore and dealing with stuff like that. It is so much, but it is only by learning how to speak up and lean out that you learn to work within that system. And that's just like imperative for growth as like a human as an adult. And of course, you benefit by becoming a better athlete as well.
Now, Riley, you competed at Pan Am, right? You did two-time championship Pan
Yes,
Am?
I did 2018 when I was in high school, and then actually I've done it three times. So
Okay.
2018 in high school, 2021 during the COVID times, which is odd, and then again in 2022.
Yeah, I was reading that on your Wikipedia page, which I didn't know you had until I was like, man, I guess I should research Riley a little bit. And I was like, not only do you have a pretty like solid Wikipedia, it's like, yeah, Riley Loos, fun facts, two sisters went to Oak Grove Elementary. Like, I was like, man, they really did their research. They stalked him a little bit for this.
I didn't even know that, to be honest.
Oh my gosh. I feel like when people find out they have a Wikipedia page, they almost want to go in and edit it themselves. Like, Jacob Daniel, 5'6". I'm going to take that up to 5'9".
Totally.
Really, really successful underlined podcast host is what I would add. Riley, I've known you since you were a teenager, man. I met you at Flip Fest. And it's really funny. I've worked at Flip Fest for years. Shout out John McCready and John Roethlisberger for creating a summer camp experience for gymnasts everywhere. Not sponsored, although I feel like eventually over my time hosting this show, I'm going to shout them out enough. So start thinking about that, John. But anyway, yeah, I met you when you were a teenager. I've worked at Flip Fest forever. But the weeks I had you and Reed Ross and Matt and just a bunch of the other kids were actually my favorite times at camp. Those were my most rewarding weeks working at Flip Fest when I was your guys' counselor. And we had like, dude, we had the best times. We did everything from winning the freaking flag contest. Um, I mean, you guys were just some of the best campers I've ever experienced. And not only that, you guys, when you showed up to the gym, you like put in the hours. I remember you guys did like a 4-hour open gym just on pommel horse with Larry the one time.
That was actually insane. I think that was the longest workout I've ever done in my life. And I will just highlight Flip Fest again because, wow, that camp really changed me as a gymnast, especially with this group that we're talking about. I I can't attribute anything more to just my boost as a gymnast than that camp because I was totally out of my comfort zone at that camp. I was just a gymnast, like having fun all the time. And sure, we had so much fun at Flip Fest, but Larry and the other coaches, such as like Paul Hom, that year was the special guest coach, and you, all the guys, really helped me push my limits to like a completely different level. I believed in myself 10 times more after that camp. So love John and John for putting that camp together. You guys are the best. And yeah, that camp was literally insane when we did that 4-hour horse session. I don't think I could feel my arms after that.
Yeah, I remember coming up to the gym because I couldn't find you guys anywhere and just seeing you in the gym with Larry too. I was like, what is going on? And Larry's like, don't interrupt them. We're still doing open gym. And I was like, dude, open gym ended at like 6. It's like almost 8:30 right now.
Yeah, it
He
was
was
definitely dark by the time we were
Yeah.
done with Pommel.
He was wild for Larry. Rest in peace, Larry. One of my favorite guests I ever got to meet at Flip Fest. But no, man, yeah, I remember that week. There were only a few times I would really cry when a week of Flip Fest was over. But I remember when I met you and all the guys in 2016, and I was your guys' counselor, and we all cried, and we were all like, "Oh, we're all gonna be back here next year," and then we made it happen. All the same campers came back for that same week, week 4 at Flip Fest. And it's really funny. of the fact that we started the week 4 is for the boys campaign, and they still do that to this day. So
That is so cool.
yeah, because Marsh has been there at Flip Fest when we do the week 4s for the boys. And yeah, Riley was one of those kids. It was Riley, Reed, Josh, Matt, oh my gosh, Sideburns. I can't remember his name was Duncan, and the rest of them, man. We just had okay, enough gushing about Flip Fest, but that's how I met Riley, and that it really was just nostalgic, like the best summer days with your buddies at work. With that summer nostalgia over, I'm gonna throw it over to Marsh for some of his signature Marsh gymnastics questions.
Yeah, no, thank you for talking to us today. I've been a big fan for a while, and part of that is due to your just outstanding prowess on rings. As a big rings guy myself, I've got a couple ring specific questions, and then we'll do some general ones as well. And
Sweet.
so, first and foremost, I've noticed that like many athletes when they compete a rings routine do Yamawaki, so swinging elements, for both, the skill value and as a break between strength. You don't really seem to do any Yamawakis. Uh, is there a reason why that you feel comfortable sharing? Or I didn't either, but that's because I have two shoulders that look like Swiss cheese, so those swinging elements were not meant for me.
Yeah, pretty much same story there for me. I've tried 4 different years to put them in my routine, and it always starts great. You're always like, "Yeah, I can do a Yamawaki, let's go!" And then you're a month into the training plan, you're like, "Yeah, I'm gonna need an MRI with my shoulder." And so, basically, where my shoulders are at are both labrums are torn. Rotator cuff on the right side is 75% torn. I haven't checked the rotator cuff on the left. I also have split bicep tears in both arms. So it's just not in the cards for me at this point. But I have totally put in the effort. I've competed it about 3 times now, and it was never worth it. I got killed in deductions on any time I did the Yamawakis. So for me, it's just put as much strength in the routine as possible, good dismount, and both giants with good handstands.
A man after my own heart. That is
Yep.
crazy though. I don't know what is keeping your shoulders together other than insane muscle.
This tape right here, it's still
Ah,
on from practice.
cool. All right, and so another reason I'm a big fan of Riley is this kinship in which he competes Maltese press to planche, which is an extraordinarily difficult ring skill that I myself compete and I'm going to hype up. And I just wanted to ask, I mean, it's uncommon, right? I mean, between
Totally.
you, me, I think there might be three other people like in the country who compete it across the past
Jacob
couple of
Daniel.
years. Like, yeah, Jake, Donnell Wittenberg, Matthew Underhill from Penn State does one right now, and I believe there's a cow athlete named Chris Scales. So
Mm,
how did you find that skill? Because most people try to go the opposite direction. It's easier to go planche to Maltese, go down.
totally. I'm trying to remember the exact time I put it in. It was during COVID, the COVID time. I had a lot of time to just work extra strength. I think my end goal was actually a Zarian planche, and I ended up settling for the Maltese push planche, but it has proved to be the most helpful skill for me because it sets me apart. Like you said, there's only 5 people in the country in the past few years that do it, and it just really shows off that you can hold a position and you're not tired at the end. You're able to push back out, and that really just shows the judges that hey, this is something unique, and I can not only hold this element but push out of it. And I think that just gives judges and anybody watching rings for any specific selection for certain competitions like this guy knows what he's doing and it's somewhat unique, so it might score better at these bigger competitions. So I think I attribute my success on ranks to that skill because also it's so hard to train. Like figuring out how to train that skill was really important for me. I'm sure for you too, because some days you just can't do it. It's just not possible. But now I've gotten to a point where wherever I need to do it or whenever I need to do it, I can do it. So I'm really happy about that.
And so moving into these more general gymnastics questions, So you expressed some preference for the Maltese press to planche there. Do you have like one a favorite skill that you do across any events, easy or hard, that you just really enjoy doing, competing?
Ooh, that's a good one. I won't choose the push planche because that's definitely my favorite thing to compete. I'm gonna go with on high bar my Liukin.
Mm,
It's just
Mm.
everything clicks at a competition with that skill. Like the pain's not there. I feel like I'm flying. I'm able to lose track of the bar and find it again. And sure, it doesn't always go perfectly, but that's definitely my most high flying skill, and I love it.
that's a good one. Lukin's actually my favorite skill in high bar. I can barely do it to kacha, so I like to watch other people do them mostly. But no, that's awesome, and you do
Yeah,
it very well.
Thank
it's
you.
my favorite skill too. The Lucas. I like that.
So I noticed real quick that you are wearing a crew neck with a skill on it, the judging
Oh
shorthand.
yeah.
Does that happen to be your pommel horse dismount?
Yeah, actually it is. So this is my pommel horse skill that I competed in 2021 at the Copa World Challenge Cup. It's a dismount where I circle on one end, turn around, hop to the other end to a handstand. And the reason I have this shirt is because I was going to get a tattoo of this symbol right here, but I just never got to it. So my girlfriend ended up making me this shirt, and it works for now. But I do really want to get it tattooed one day.
Oh,
That's
that's
awesome.
awesome. That dude,
Fun,
that's sick and
yeah, funnily
tough.
enough, I was commentating this weekend with a young lady whose name is unfortunately escaping right now. I believe it was Andrea. And
Mhm.
she was the first person to do triple twist for women's gymnastics, and she mentioned she had that tattooed on her body as well. So
Oh, the symbol?
yeah,
That's super cool.
yeah, and so that's also funny because I recently have been playing with, upgraded dismounts on horse because
Mhm.
they've receded that boost in a recent quad where your dismount value will match your element group value.
Mhm.
Right. And so as someone who's strong in a handstand, I was like, it might be worth playing with some of these more difficult dismounts. And so the first
Mhm.
thing I did was play with the Tong Fei one before I remembered that I am not good at Tong Fei. And then I cracked open the code and I was like, oh, the Stanford guys, two of them have a dismount in the same box in the code, and it's you and David Jessen.
Yep.
And do you like, so when you create a skill and they later combine it into a box, are you like notified why they're putting it in the same box, how that works out? Was it just a coincidence that you and he ended up being in the same box in the code like that?
No, they first of all, they don't notify you at all when your skill's put in the code. I had to learn just by looking it up in a newsletter, and I was like, "Oh, cool, it's in the code." And then when they put it in the same box, I was really confused because they describe both of them the same way, but mine is technically a Kier hop to handstand, and his is a Stockley. So that was weird, but I think they were just trying to save room in the code for other dismounts, maybe. I'm not too sure.
Fair
But what's
enough.
really cool about being in the same box as David Jessen is he was my mentor at Stanford. So we share that bond, and maybe one day he'll get that tattoo with me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned you're still training. You did your 1-on-6 earlier today. What does your typical day look like training full time? Are you a student still? Are you just a professional athlete, so to speak?
So right now, what I do, it's a crazy schedule. I do some personal training in the mornings, and then straight from there, I go to the gym by like 8 a.m. I stay at the gym till about 2 p.m. doing just whatever the workout is for that day. I'm in the gym most days of the week, even Sundays like today, because just the way things are working out with Winter Cup being Friday, Sunday competitions. And then after that, I go and take a nap for a little bit and either do some data analysis work for this tech startup I'm helping out at or do a private lesson for coaching. So pretty busy all the time. And I like posting fun videos when I get the chance. So that's kind of my schedule. It's awesome. I love it right now, but definitely pretty busy.
Yeah, no. Wow, you keep more than a full plate. All right. And
When do
so I
you,
got
oh, my bad. When do you find a little time for you, Riley, during that like quick 5 minutes before you go to bed? That's when you get to Check Instagram.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh, Anytime I get, I take it just to like literally lay down and rest because otherwise I'm moving. But again, like I love moving around and staying busy, so I'm enjoying this life right now.
That's awesome.
All right. And so this is a fun one I'm looking for an answer to. Do you have like a gymnastics humble flex and or brag, something that you're proud of that might not be well known about you? I had a teammate once who calculated his hit percentage across all of college where he did yeah, 5 years of competition, did all around at like almost every meet and had like over a 90% hit rate. And so
Mm.
like that would be an example.
I have a fun one. I This what you just said reminded me of this. In 2021, the whole year, I did not miss one routine. So I'm really happy to say that. I have not done that since because I kind of changed my mindset of I don't want to just hit routines. I want to go big and go for perfect form. But I really like that one. Um, if there's anything else, it's competing the backflip to planche on floor. Even though it didn't get a name, not yet. We'll see. We're fighting for it right now. That was the coolest moment in my gymnastics career because I was so stressed for that.
Yeah, dude, I bet. I mean, the video is so viral and it's very cool. And as someone who can do both a backflip and a straight planche, it is also exceptionally hard. I mean, when I saw it was given a B, I was just further rooted in my belief that Fig hates clout. I mean, yeah, no, I thought it was really cool. And I mean, I do a swallow on floor. I mean, you do as well. And swallow is absolutely easier than the backflip to straight planche, and you make it look way easier than it is.
Yeah, it's a tough one, but mostly it's just figuring out how to get into it. Because when you do it right, it feels like the easiest thing in the world. When you do it wrong, it's like I should not do this. That hurt. So I get what you're saying.
All right. Riley, this next question comes from a fan of the show. It comes from Reed Ross of William and Mary. He writes, which loose was cooler to compete the first time, floor or pommel horse?
Floor for sure. Also, shout out Reed. He's the goat. I love Reed.
I text
Um,
I texted him. I was like, dude, I'm having Riley
oh,
as our first guest on the show. What can I ask him? And he goes, oh, do I get creative freedom with what I want to ask him? I was like, yeah, go crazy. And of course, he sent me the most Reed Ross. I don't know why I was like thinking I was gonna have to text Reed of all people and be like, okay, settle down.
Reed's awesome.
Yeah, he's in the living room actually. He's my roommate.
No way.
Yeah,
Tell him hi for me. That's so cool.
will do.
It all comes full circle. Another casual question, Riley. What would you say is like the nerdiest thing about you?
Probably that I track literally everything in my life. I track. I have a Whoop band that I track all of my body data. I track all my routine data, all my turns that I take, all my skills. When I was in school, I would track all my assignments, track my grades, track everything. I just literally love data, and I think that's really nerdy because a lot of people don't like to know everything about everything, but I tend to love it. So that's definitely what's nerdiest about me.
No, that's awesome. I thought you were gonna say something like, "Oh, I love Iron Man."
Also, I have been playing Clash of Clans for about longer than I've been doing gymnastics. So,
That's respect right
and I'm
there.
still going strong. I love that game so much.
What's your clan's name?
Oh, I actually just left my clan because they were slacking. So I'm clanless.
You heard it here first. If you want to get a competitive gymnast Riley Loos in your clan, DM him. All right, Riley. And my last question for you is what's your initial D, man? Where do you go from here? What's the next big step for Riley Loos?
That's a great question. I've been wrestling with that a lot, just being out of college. Everything's on me right now. And the big initial D right now is making that world team this year. It's been a dream of mine for a long time. I just want to help Team USA out as much as possible, and I think I can do that with me being on the floor at Worlds this year. So That's what I'm going for. Starting with Winter Cup this year, just trying to get back into the swing of things, but really going for it this year.
Dude, that's sick. I'm gonna throw it over to Marsh for the last question of the pod today, man. But I really liked that, man. I I'm also glad you remember Initial D. That was also something that I would do with Riley and my campers, where I would ask them what their initial D was, and the D stands for dream, people. It's important to have
D stands for
dreams.
dream.
My dream was to start a gymnastics podcast, and here I am, the third best gymnastics podcast.
Let's go.
I don't think there's a ton, but
All right, and this last one is just a really silly question I thought of with my friends when we sit in a bar and eat trees fries once a week. Is if you were going to pick one Disney character and have them be a gymnast all arounder,
Ooh,
who do you think would be the best one?
that's a
Disney
good question.
character. Wow. Okay, I gotta think here. Hmm. Wow. Okay.
Riley's like, I haven't seen a lot of Disney movies without data and analyst in it.
Hmm. Yeah, there's not many data-driven Disney characters. I am. Oh, I'm gonna need a second here. Hmm.
If you need help, I can tell you some of the answers we threw around.
Yeah, let's hear him. I gotta hear
All
him.
right, I feel like Li Shang from Mulan. I think
Mm,
he could be a real good all-arounder. He just seems like he's got the right attitude to work hard and like he'd have a good feel for it. I mean, we see him train the other ones. He's a leader, so I think he'd have a good role and then like a team as an all-arounder.
mm,
Tarzan, I think, has
Oh,
just a fantastic sense for it, of course, between the tumbling and stuff. I'm sure he's strong enough to also do pommel horse. And I mean,
mm,
he's swinging on all the vines. He swings on branches like high bar. So parallel,
totally.
parallel, yeah, might be like the most foreign to him, but everyone's got to have one week event, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I was
Hercules
thinking
literally
something
does pommel
totally.
horse.
I was thinking something totally wrong. Because I was like thinking with Nemo, right? I was thinking Dory, and sure, that's gonna be physically impossible for Dory to do gymnastics. But just the fact that Dory keeps swimming, like just keeps swimming, that's literally how I feel sometimes at a workout, knowing I've done one event and I'm absolutely dead and I have to do five more events. I'm just like, just keep swimming. And so I think I'm just gonna go with Dory, even though I don't know what Dory could do on the rings. Like that, just probably nothing, but that's what I'm gonna go with.
Well, if she gets to do it underwater, she'll be so much lighter. So no,
Yeah,
that's
totally.
a way better answer than the nonsense I was talking about. I was analyzing it, and you were like, we should think about the lesson here more importantly.
Yeah, the lesson, totally. But I'm all about the lesson.
oh my gosh. That's awesome. Well, with that, guys, we've run out of time for today. It is Super Bowl Sunday as we record this. Go Chiefs. For all my Missouri family out there. Go Eagles for everyone else outside of Missouri. Um, with that, my name is Jacob Daniel,
I'm Christian Marsh.
And I'm Riley Loos.
and you have been listening to Podnastics. Good night.